all the things that I'm saying.
Well, all of the things that you're bringing up are just proving my point. That it's going to take a couple years, maybe 3 years, but then the iron will be so hot to strike that the change it should be easier. Hopefully it'd be peaceful, but if it's not peaceful, then it needs to go kinetic. And that's what the whole revolution was about. We are, okay. Diamond, so, we are moving towards the same harmonic as our founding fathers had in the 1700s, the late 1700s.
Okay, so let's say
we are in the same harmonic. I feel it.
So let's say we are in the same harmonic.
Right.
Let's say that.
And they had to go through.
All right, let's say we're in the same harmonic. And let's also include the fact that what we just talked about in the Bible, first there was the Word, and the Word was God.
Well, no, in the beginning, basically God spoke and let there be, blah, blah, blah. And then
first there was light, and then there was the Word. Now, you and I were just discussing the interpretation of the word as being vibration, because in my opinion, language is a bastardization of vibration and many others. So the actual phraseology that we speak in English, in our language that is taught to us, is a negative vibration on purpose, created by the powers that wanted us to be negative.
No, I think that
there's positive vibrations, like the word Om, which comes from Sanskrit, and other noises in our universe, which could be the word of God, and yet you think they're the actual words of humans in our language.
Well, I think what popped in my mind while you were talking was that our speaking, we have a thought and we speak it, and that materializes by coming out, and it's creating a wave, right? It's a three-dimensional wave, and that eventually it's materialized. But we are the small Fibonacci, or a tributary of the Fibonacci, of a larger Fibonacci, the God Fibonacci. And I think this bastardization that you're talking about is really just a manifestation of this smaller Fibonacci sequence within a much larger Fibonacci sequence. We're thinking, and through thinking we speak, and then it comes out. That's a sequence of three. And God, the God spoke and let there be, and there it was. It's the same thing. God had the thought, had to speak it, and then it became. But that's the God Fibonacci, and we're within. We're a tributary of it.
So can I?
But but we're in a harmonic. We're in the similar harmonic to 1776, or just prior to 1776. And that's what's important here, is understand that what were some of the trials and tribulations of our founding fathers, and how do we use this sort of harmonic to materialize a freer, more enlightened world, a freer society.
Well, what if, Paul, since 1776, our vocabulary has been purposefully changed to prevent the expression of the actual means to our end. And what I mean by that, it might be esoteric, is that the way that our language has evolved in those few hundred years has taken us away from a connection from source and put us more into a connection of the controller's arms. Can you speak to that?
I would say that it's you're right. Over time, we're moving away from the source, but it's more of a decay. I think it's a natural decay, just like the body decays when it dies. You know, it's together. It has its form and all that, but when it dies, it starts to decay, and it goes through all this decaying process. Our language that we have today is this decaying process. I'm not so sure if it's sinister. I'm not sure that, you know, there's another force out there that's making this happen. I think it's natural progression of things.
Well, I can
not,
disagree. I can disagree, and let's bring it back, because I've been looking at this, because the megalithic cultures that populated the earth before the deluge, and if we're talking 12,900, 700 years, whatever number you want, Younger Dryas, the megalithic cultures, there is no evidence of language. There is no written books. There is no manuscript. There's nothing, not a single inscription. Yet the information is encoded mathematically in the structures, in the architecture, in the sacred geometry within the buildings. So they had a language, but it was silent, so to speak. And so in my eyes, based on all the information and all my studies for decades, I believe that the megalithic builders were, they had no language because they were above language. In my eyes, I think we're in the bottom of the Yuga, and language is a breakdown of information. Because in order to interpret what I say to you, Paul, if I'm using words, everything is based on my inflection. I could say, Paul, go away, or I could say, Paul, go away, and it means two different things. So language itself and the words are independent of meaning. And to me, the deeper and the more intellectual ideas of an advanced society include the fact that there was a telepathic type of communication, one that included such deep knowledge that it did not need language. Because language to me is almost pathetic, because I can say a sentence to a human, and based on the way I say it, they will interpret it one way or another. Are you following me on that point? Semantics are everything, and inflection today is everything. And that can't be an advanced form of communication, because
I think that I see your point. What clicks in my mind is that there's a balance between being connected with nature and your gut instinct, and having to articulate some sort of quote, logic statement, or an idea, right? So as we're becoming more and more detached from nature, we have to become more and more semantic. And like you said, with the inflection points and stuff. So if you become closer to nature, there's a wisdom there that has been lost in modern society that I think you're bringing up. I don't think that these societies never talked. I think they talked, but I think that they had a deeper connection with nature, and they had a good gut instinct that I think our society today has lost.
Lacks. Yeah, and that's my point. The point is that I think that these ancient cultures had a lot to say, but at the same time, they had nothing to say because they knew what was going on. So if everything is perfect and harmonious, and you're living in this wonderful place in your life, right? You don't have to go to work. You just wake up and exist, and everything is fabulous. What would we have to say to each other? We would just look at each other and smile and corroborate and create and harvest and enjoy. And so there's no purpose for words. Words were created when the breakdown of humanity occurred.
Well, they still had death and destruction and disease and stuff like that.
Yeah, but death is normal. Part of the cycle. Yeah, why do we hate it? We all are going to die. So why is everyone scared of it? You're all going to die if you're listening.
No. but the point I'm making is that through death, and there's this unknown, then there's the appreciation of the current, because you don't know if a loved one would be dead the next day or not. So
Yeah,
I
but
don't
if
think
you
everything
if
was
you
a
appreciate
panacea in their
if you
world.
appreciate
I mean, they
life
were dealing with a lot of.
as well as death, and we know that the ancients were had amazing death rituals. And think of the
Mhm,
pharaohs and the creation of mummies.
mhm,
So,
mhm.
in my eyes, there was no need for language because life and death was appreciated equally. There was no separation. Today, we have a separation. So, I believe that the megalithic cultures that were more
But even
advanced than
even the
us.
monk, even
Go ahead.
well, I mean, to prove your point, I mean, there is evidence of these monasteries with monks not speaking, and they farm.
What do they farm?
But they didn't. Uh, what did they farm?
Yeah,
Well, I
I've
don't know
been to
what they farm.
monasteries where they
Potatoes,
make well, they make
potatoes. I guess I don't know.
when I was in Germany,
Beer.
they
They
make
make beer.
beer. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. They made beer. But that was only males. I don't think that there is a comparison that we can point to prove that a society of women and children and men were quiet. I have a hard time believing that the whole society doesn't speak, and they just like had some telepathy or something. I don't know if that's true, but I do think that they would have a deeper insight on things because they were connected to nature. And it's very possible that they actually talked more than we talk, or at least maybe they said they talked less, but what they said was more compact and more meaningful than the blabbermouthing that we have today. What
And
we
that
are is a bunch. What we are is just a bunch of noise. So what they would be saying might be very condensed and very impactful. Well, today, we just keep on run-on sentences and blah 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 blah. So, but it's hard to imagine. I can't imagine a society where they didn't talk at all, unless it was a society that was completely deaf, or mute. But I don't know. I would think like the Mayans and stuff like that had language. A vocal language, not
well,
just a written
the
language.
Mayans did have language, and they're more recent. I'm talking pre-Diluvian. If there were pre-Diluvian Mayans, pre-flood, they were silent, in my opinion. Now, I agree with your opinion, but maybe we've developed so much nonsense that we had to develop language to talk about it. And back then, there
But
was
it could be,
no nonsense.
yeah, but I could be wrong about this, but I thought the Tower of Babel was pre-Noah. And if it was pre-Noah, then there was language, because it states that the world spoke one language. And
That's
part
what I'm
of
getting.
the,
That's what I'm getting at.
yeah, well, I mean, yeah. I mean, but it spoke one language. It didn't say it thought one language.
That's a good point. And I don't. You've frozen up. Your connection is completely lost, and we have you no longer. Are you still here?
Well, yeah, I can hear you.
All right, I'm going to
You
call
can
you
hear
back.
me, right?
Yeah,
No,
well,
no,
I
no.
can't.
Can you hear me?
I can't see it. Did you cut me off,
No.
bastard?
Well, I'm a lawyer, and then they have some sort of stereotype of what a lawyer is, or I'm a this or that, And so we attach ourselves too much to what we do and not the actual human being that we are. You know, it's sad. And I think that's really the root cause of this issue of boredom when you're on a vacation. I mean, if you're going to go on a vacation, you're going to be doing all these new things. You shouldn't be bored at all. And I don't get bored. I'm not, but I've always got something going on.
All right. So
I view life as so precious that you just try to get things done. I can't hear you.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm a clown ass. Did I tell you this the other night? I was in a greenhouse here in Pagosa, and I'm volunteering. I'm putting in a dry set stone wall, and I'm also reporting on the amazing developments of this biodome thing we're doing in town in Pagosa Springs. And this one guy who's influential, I mean, he's like a paid CEO of the nonprofit that's doing it, and I'm in there not getting paid doing it. So he's getting paid to do it, and I'm actually doing it for no money. And he says, "Oh, what do you do?" He's wondering what I do to allow me to come in here to do this for free. And my categorical answer was, whatever the fuck I want. What's your problem? And he was so offended. He was so offended because that's the way every human should answer. What do you do is the dumbest thing ever. And I used to think it was important. I remember when I was 9, my fourth grade or third grade teacher, whatever the hell it was like, "What do you want to be?" That was the day's class, and we filled out this thing. I got my answer back, and it said paleontologist. And at that time, I was like, I went to the library. I was 9, and I looked up what that was, and I was like, I don't want to fucking be a dinosaur doctor or whatever that is. I hated it. I hated the test. I hated that answer. I wanted to be a fucking disc jockey or a rock star or fireman or some dumb shit. It said I was going to be a paleontologist. So I forgot about it. And then turns out, here I am. I'm 21. I'm failing out of college. And I'm sitting at the bar scraping my face, sitting next to this old guy that looks like Santa Claus. And I say, "Hey," and he's like, he looks at me and he's like, "What the fuck's your problem?" Because I'm like 20. He's like 60. And I'm like, "Oh, this college sucks. I got a 1.7. It blows." And he's like, "What's your major?" I was like, "International business." And then I went on a tirade because they placed me out of 7 fucking years of Spanish on my entry-level test. And I didn't even know Spanish. Like, I barely knew it. But I was up in like 300 graduate level Spanish based on my test. So the first class I went in, the rule was no English. And I didn't even know how to fucking begin. So I was like, ah. And then my teacher got mad at me. I was thrown out of the class because I was speaking English. Because I don't know Spanish, but the test told them that I knew Spanish. Anyway, so I'm sitting there, I'm bitching to Santa Claus, and Santa Claus turns to me and he says, "Well, what do you like, David?" Because I wasn't going by Diamond at that time. I said, "I'm David Mariello." He says, "Well, what do you like, David?" I said, "Well, I'm a rock climber. I like to climb rocks. I love fossils. I love the outdoors. I hate this place," because I'm stuck in Philly in like the shithole ghetto. And he looks over at me and he's like, "Well, why don't you become a geologist? We study rocks, we go rock climbing, we drink beer, and we play pool, and that's what we do." And I looked over at him and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "No, you become a geologist." And I was like, and then it hit me. It hit me. When I was 9, I took the test. And I looked at him and I said, "Is that a paleontologist?" And he said, "Yeah, it's the same shit." And I was like, done. And I left. I called my dad. I said, "I don't care if you hate me. I'm done. I'm switching majors. It's over." And they were supportive. And listen, what happened? That was my sophomore year. I got a 4.0 the rest of it. I was perfect. I didn't study. I enjoyed every second. I was dynamic. I was unspoken. They hated me because it was everything I ever wanted to learn. And I didn't want to hear anything that they fucking had to say because I'm a scientist now. And people today don't understand that that's how science works. I was just like, "No, bullshit. bullshit, prove it to me. And they did. And I was like, wow. And then I proved some stuff wrong. And then we went from there. And then, ironically, at the end of my undergraduate cacophony of success, I went from the bottom of the barrel to the top. I literally ended with a 3.8 GPA from failing out my first semester because I just got 4.0s the whole way through. And then I was like amazed. That was the best journey of my life. And then they offered me the only scholarship to graduate school. The only one. There was only one. I wasn't even top of the class. I was top of the ass. I was top clown ass. But I was like, I got this letter and I'm like, what is this shit? And I wrote back. I was like, my answer to if I will accept pay and free tuition was like, who the wouldn't accept this, you dumbasses? And that was it. And that was how I'm here with you today. What a story.
That's cool. That's cool.
And then here you are.
You know, you should be. My father was a geologist. He worked in the. He first started after he finished his undergrad. He did a little bit of graduate school, and then I was born. So he went and was a teacher, a science teacher. But then in the early 70s, there was a lot of what do they call them? I forgot the term that they used.
Dumbasses?
Where they're I can't even think of the term now because it's late.
Dumbasses.
But they are no. Oh, protesting. They were basically protesting for higher pay. So because he was low on the totem pole because it was based on tenure, it affected his pay scale, his pay. So so my mother said, well, you know, because now they had 3 kids because Dan and Joel were born. We moved down to Texas, and he was getting into the oil and gas industry, the oil industry, just outside of Houston. So he used his geology degree for that. But my mother hated Texas because of the heat. So we moved back up to Michigan. And then he got into pharmaceutical sales. He worked for ophthalmology type pharmaceuticals and then eventually retired from AstraZeneca. But, you know, so he went from geologist, you know, teaching, you know, a chemistry teacher, and then, you know, started working in the oil and gas industry for a little while and then got into pharmaceutical sales.
Yeah, that was,
but
pharmaceutical
I was always
sales were big when I was a kid, like 30 years ago. My one neighbor, I remember her dad, his whole like garage was a cage. And it was all drugs behind it because he was selling. He was a pharmaceutical guy. He was very, very successful. Like he didn't work. He just was home all day. He was just selling from home or whatever they were doing. But we know how that went. And the pharmaceutical industry today, I mean, where are they? I mean,
oh, it's totally different now.
They're pulling drugs off the shelf to treat coronavirus in case it'll work. Because they already spent millions on it, you know. I mean, that's the state. That's the state of affairs.
Yeah. It's this remdesivir seems like it's going to probably be promising. That you know the molecule looks like it's promising, but I would prefer remdesivir than the actual.
Did you say vaccine? I lost connection.
Right. Yeah, the vaccine, the messenger RNA vaccine.
Yeah, well, I'm
worried about
licorice root and red algae and colloidal silver before any of those. But there's no one giving those protocols before remdesivir.
But here's the issue: is that the research that I have seen so far with the the terpenoids and the lignoids and even the licorice stuff, it's 50%. They have roughly about a 50% affinity to the docking area of the protease. So remdesivir, if my understanding is correct with remdesivir, is that the docking is better. So the question is,
here's
better?
The
question though.
Is it like 58% or?
No, that I don't know. I mean, without someone doing a study, I don't know. But here's the thing: is I think with the more homeopathic method, it's the combination of the different molecules. And so my gut feeling here is that you take, it's the dosing and the combination of the molecules. So like in the morning, you take compound 1 and compound, let's say 5, all right? And then during noontime, you take a different combination. And then you reverse it and you do, so you double dose on the combination throughout the day. So you have 4 doses. But, and the thought is that the concentrations are in the cell, and that those molecules are docking in the protease in a different angle, and they're working together. But
do you know that
there's not a lot of literature on the combinations of these types of chemicals?
Not at all. But did you know that someone actually bitched because you mispronounced protease?
Someone bitched I mispronounced protease?
Yeah, because
what did I say?
Well, they don't understand.
How did I say it?
You're from Michigan, so you said protease. You were a little short on the end game.
Well, shit. I mean, fucking A, man. I get so much. I mean, I just like, I get. There's so many people that try to nitpick everything I say. They nitpick every little thing, and I'm going a million miles an hour with very little sleep for like a series of multiple days, and I'm trying to help people, and I get these trolls that have had their 8 hours sleep,
that don't give a fuck.
And don't give a fuck, and then all they can do is nitpick on, if I'm saying something wrong.
All right, you just froze up. So let's talk about the naturopathic remedies that you just talked about. Is there any reason why you suggested that there should be different protocols in the morning and the evening with these homeopathics? I mean, do you have any evidence to do?
Well, there really isn't any evidence that's showing the combination. It is looking at the structure of the organic molecule, and with the leap, the logic leap, the hypothesis, this logic leap that I'm making, that the certain molecules, the shape of them, when put together, look more like the docking station if you look at the three-dimensional topology of the actual protease. But it's a shotgun method. And the thought is that if you don't know something, you just throw the kitchen sink at it until something sticks, right? And that's really the thought there. I mean, but the thing is that people need to spend more time doing the research. But I do think that there is something there. There is. I mean, what is pharmaceuticals? Pharmaceuticals is just organic molecules. Well, you can get the organic molecules in a natural environment. In the natural environment has evolved. These plants have evolved with fighting viruses. And these viruses that are in these plants have to have proteases.
Yeah,
right?
so
the plants have figured a way to fight them, the viruses.
You've been awake for days. Have you heard about the cure for coronavirus coming out from the Kesh Foundation? It's similar to colloidal silver, but they're making some type of colloidal copper. Have you heard about that information coming out after the last 10 days?
No, I don't know anything about colloidal copper. I didn't even know that you could do colloidal copper.
Neither did I.
I don't know.
Kesh Foundation is, according to many, providing a cure for this virus, which I think is hokey. I mean, I'm saying 50-50. Like, if someone's coming out to the ball game here with a cure and they're not talking about what's actually happening about the spread or the management of the virus or where it came from or where its purpose and the science about the virus, how much can we really believe about them curing the virus if they really don't know about it?
Right, exactly. And, you know, if they make that statement, cure, what exactly is the colloidal copper doing? You know, what is it disrupting the S protein? Is it disrupting the M protein? Is it disrupting is it disrupting the assembly of the virus? The copper gets into the infected cell and it disrupts it. If it is disrupting it, is it disrupting other?
Is it disrupting other what? I mean, is it going to
I mean,
kill?
right. So I mean, yeah, it could kill the virus, but it might be also, you know, giving you lung cancer too. But you know, who knows? But no, I don't. I'm really focused more on there is a homeopathic remedy that will help. It will help. The question is will it's if the medical industry, or let me say, the medical establishment starts to break down because of an outbreak, which is highly probable, then you at least need a backstop. And what's our next best thing if we can't get remdesivir or some other protease inhibitor that a doctor provides, like you know, the HIV medication that's out there? Okay, if we can't get that,
Yeah, because
then you have to lean on the homeopathic remedies.
Let's make it clear that these drugs like remdesivir are in very limited supply. It's not like we can just give them to 80,000 people tomorrow. They probably only have 80,000 doses total, and they're working their ass off to get more because they're going to get paid, but they just do not exist.
But
so
even
the homeopathy is the way to go.
Right, exactly. I mean, because the way these systems are set up right now, it's assuming that there wouldn't be an outbreak. But if you're talking about 1.5 million people, let's just 1.5 million people in the United States, they don't have enough doses. That's just infected, you know, and then let's say a 5% kill rate. But if you have 1.5 million or more, there's no way that they have enough doses of this, because you're going to probably need it for 14 days for every patient. So, or 7 days for every patient. So the only answer in an outbreak is homeopathic.
Yeah. Well, it's like,
unless you're the lucky one that happened to get the remdesivir.
Yeah, it's tomorrow morning and neither of us have slept. So let's talk about our final discussion on the hero, the doctor that called out coronavirus.
Oh, Dr. Lee.
Dr. Lee, and they let him die. Now, I guarantee they could have kept that man alive. But I believe in my gut, as soon as I heard the confirmed news that they killed this guy, I mean, they did not get him remdesivir on purpose. They made sure that he didn't get what he needed, because just 3 days before he died, they were at his door reprimanding him for lying to the public about warning him about a fake virus that was about to kill him. I mean, what are your thoughts on that false narrative, the fact that the people are rising up and that this man is actually a hero? And in my eyes, I think they killed him.
Well, I think he's definitely a hero, and he's probably an inflection point where the society is going to really question on how this totalitarian government is on.
He just froze up, of course. So the totalitarian government is in control?
The totalitarian government is in control, but Dr. Lee is probably an inflection point where the citizenry will rise up and really question the authority of the CCP. But there's some evidence that his ribs were broken. So that's what I heard. So it's like,
where did you get that info?
I thought that was from Miss Taiwan when she was doing the translation on the Taiwan show. But it's sad that here you had someone that was dedicating his life to trying to help people, and he sees an atrocity. He's trying to tell people the truth, And this is what have an overarching governmental system that's trying to hide and not be transparent to its people and to be accountable to its people. And whistleblowers, I mean, something very similar is happening to Julian Assange in a way. He's a whistleblower, and no one, they're trying to lock him up, and his health starts to decline, and and they're just, it's a shame because
they're drugging him clearly.
Oh, I didn't know that they were drugging him, but the thing is that his health is declining, and he should be viewed as a hero and not as some villain, because there is a lot of nefarious things that are happening in this world by many different governments, and if the people knew about it, instead of saying, well, it has to be hidden because of national security, people would start really questioning some of the decisions that have been made in the last 25 years. And, or farther. Well, and, it's a sad thing. I see Dr. Lee and Julian Assange in the same boat. Yeah. They tried to tell the truth about something really sinister, and that, people, if they really heard the truth, would really say, stop this, but